What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. This is your boy Frankie Bones, and in today's video we're going to be breaking down the 2023 MLB season, telling you guys essentially what I think is going to happen. We're going to run through some best bets, talking about division winners. We have win totals for teams. We have World Series odds. As of the past couple days, I'm recording this here today on Saturday, March 25th. And then we'll go into some season-long awards for both the AL and the NL. Just a quick message, if you guys do enjoy videos like this and the baseball content I've put out already, please feel free to drop a like. Let me know down in the comments what you guys enjoy about these videos, what you think I can do better, and ultimately if you guys are riding or if you guys are fading with some of my best bets. So getting into this, going to try and keep this quick. Definitely getting a little bit better about that through my past couple of videos. But we're going to start with the American League division winners. Basically put together two teams that I think can win each division, and underlined is the team that I think is going to win, and I'll tell you exactly why. So starting off with the Central, we have the Guardians at plus 115 and the Twins at plus 180. Ultimately, I think that the Guardians are going to take this division. This team is led by pitching, some good depth in terms of starting pitching, and if they're able to stay healthy, I think that this will help their team get over the hump in this pretty weak division in the AL Central. They added Josh Bell to their team, which definitely adds a little bit more pop, and overall I think that the young guys are going to be able to step up. Stephen Kwan played pretty well, and I think overall that this team is going to be able to win the division again. Moving on to the AL East, obviously we have my Yankees at plus 120, and we have the Toronto Blue Jays at plus 210. Now, obviously I'm going to go with the Yankees here, and for a couple of reasons that should be pretty obvious. In the offseason, the Yankees added another ace, another top-line starting pitcher to the rotation in Carlos Rodon. I think if this pitching rotation is able to stay healthy throughout the season, this is a top 5 rotation for sure. Definitely could crack into the top 3, depending on how they're pitching. Definitely going to get out of the gates a little bit slow in terms of this pitching staff, with Rodon being on the IL. Sevy ultimately was put on the IL today, I believe, with some lat strain. Pretty minor, but ultimately rather be safe than sorry. They have incredible depth in the bullpen. At the back end, Clay Holmes fell off just a little bit. But with Michael King coming back fully healthy, Jonathan Loaizaga, getting Tommy Kahnle, who will be back off injury, hopefully early on in the season, Wandy Peralta, Ron Marinaccio, the bullpen depth is just really massive for them, being able to shorten the game, and ultimately I think that the kids will get called up, depending on what the starting opening day roster looks like, whether it's Peraza on the roster, whether it's Volpe. Not sure exactly how it's going to shake out there, but I think the kids are going to be able to be called up, make an impact. I think it's Waldo Cabrera as well, makes an impact on this team this season. Moving on to the AL West, we have the Astros at minus 185 and Seattle at plus 360. Obviously, the Astros are heavy favorites here, and I'm going to continue to ride with them. I don't really see a reason why they're going to lose this division. They're just an offensive force at the end of the day, seemingly not missing a beat with the players that have left their team. Jose Abreu was an incredible signing to add even more pop to this lineup, pair him up with Yordan Alvarez, and they're going to be a big-time mashing duo. They have an incredibly strong bullpen towards the back end with Presley and a number of other guys. The only question is can the starting pitching repeat the performances of last year? Obviously, they lost Justin Verlander, but I definitely think they still have enough to get out of this division, and we'll talk about their win total here a little bit later on. Moving on to the National League, we're going to start with the Central. We have the Cardinals minus 130, Brewers plus 165. Here I'm going to stick with the favorites here with the Cardinals. Reason being, Wilson Contreras I think was a great add. Obviously really tough to replace a guy like Yachty behind the plate with his experience, but I think Wilson Contreras is going to be a great add. He's a great offensive hitter, which I think this team definitely could use, although they do have a strong offensive lineup. ultimately behind Arenado and Goldie and a bunch of other guys along the way. I think that will be able to step up for them. Their starting pitching has great depth. I like the move with Jordan Montgomery with the deadline with the Yankees last year. And I think that, in a weak division, like I mentioned, it's sort of going to be one of these two teams, which is why there's not a ton of juice on the Brewers at plus 165, but I'm sort of leaning Cardinals here at this point. Moving on to the National League East, we have the Braves at plus 100 and the Mets at plus 170. I'm actually going to lean with the Mets here, and there's a couple reasons why. Ultimately, I think that the Braves had a great season, and this is going to be another dogfight like we saw last year. But just some reasonings for the Mets. I think it's really good value for them because I think that they definitely have potential to be the best team in this division. Adding Justin Verlander is absolutely massive. Obviously, they lose Jacob deGrom, so this might be a little bit of a wash of a move. But I think at the back, and when we get to the back end of the season, Verlander and Max Scherzer being your 1 and 2 is just absolutely dominant. Just as dominant as Jacob deGrom, but he does have some injury-prone concerns in terms of deGrom. Obviously, both Max and Verlander are older, but Verlander is coming off a Cy Young campaign, and Max pitched incredibly well. Adding Senga to the mix at starting pitching, I think, is really massive. He could be an easy front runner for NL Rookie of the Year. But I think these young guys on this team do have to step up, whether it be Brett Beatty. I think that they're going to need to get more contribution from some of these young guys, some guys that they maybe don't expect too much. And overall, I think that their offense is definitely strong enough to be able to survive a couple of slow, I don't want to say months, but, a couple of weeks. Obviously, teams go through ups and downs. The big question here is who's going to close out these games. The World Baseball Classic situation. What are you going to do? But the Trumpets won't be playing in Queens this year. Moving on to our final division, the NL West, we have the Dodgers minus 125 and the Padres plus 120. Here I'm going to take the Padres at plus 120. I just think the Dodgers are ultimately going to take a step back. Going to be difficult for them to repeat, and they won't have Walker Buehler for this season as well. But talking about the Padres overall, I love the Xander Bogaerts ad. He's, a consistent over 300 hitter, great defensively. This makes him really versatile with moving some guys around on their team. They'll shift Tatis into right field. He'll be back. I believe the date is April 20th, so only missing about 3 weeks at the beginning of the season to finish out his suspension. But the offensive firepower is crazy. They're going to have Juan Soto for his first full season, Machado, and there's a ton of underrated guys on this team like Jake Cronenworth as well. Trent Grisham in center, a great glove. And ultimately, like I had mentioned, I just think the Dodgers are going to take a step back. So let me know what you guys think about these picks. Feel free to parlay a couple together that you think will work out. Again, the 6 that I have Cleveland, I have the Yankees, I have the Astros, the Cardinals, the Mets, and the Padres. I parlayed all these 6 together. Then I also threw in a separate parlay with Cleveland, the Yankees, Houston, and St. Louis. So obviously these odds aren't great, but could be a nice little payout towards the end of the season. Maybe you forget about it and you get a little bit of coin back in your account. Now, moving on to some win totals that I like. Going to fire through these pretty quickly because I already talked about most of these teams. I like Houston over. They're probably going to win 100 games. Mets over 93.5. I think that they will hit this over because I personally think they'll win the division, and it'll definitely take more than that to do so. New York Yankees over 93.5. Almost won 100 games last year with a terrible skid. Obviously, they played really well to start, but I think that they're easily going to hit this over. Looking at maybe 96, 97. San Diego Padres over 93.5. Similar line of thinking. If I think they're going to win the division, it's going to take more than that to take that division. Talking about St. Louis, again, another division winner that I think. I took the win totals of all the division winners over just because ultimately it makes sense in a lot of cases. St. Louis over 88.5. I like that, sort of a weak division. And really, it's not that hard to win 90 games, 89 games in the MLB. Cleveland over 86.5. I think that this is kind of low even for them. Might just squeak over, might be touching 90, but I think the starting pitching will be able to help carry them to that number. And then 2 unders that I like, obviously out of spite. We're going to take the Red Sox under, just really unimpressed with their offseason. And I think there's potential they could even finish last in this division. Potentially them, Tampa Bay, or the Orioles, honestly, who have a really young, promising team. They could definitely make some moves. So I like the under for the Red Sox, and then I like the under for the Minnesota Twins. Again, I did say that they could win the division, but I think that there's a thin line for them in terms of their margin of success. And I figured why not. I'm not going to be taking all these, but these are just some leans that I liked initially looking at the odds. So again, you could parlay a lot of these together. You know, some of these Yankees minus 120, Cleveland minus 128. So not great juice, but obviously if you want to parlay a few together, these are sort of season-long bets. So, you know, nice little payout at the end as we head into the playoffs. Moving on to our World Series champions predictions. These are, you know, some of the best odds that are obviously present, but I think a lot of times those are the teams that are going to take the title. So in the middle, we obviously have my Yankees plus 850. No reason for me to have to go in depth on them. Dodgers plus 750. That's really, you know, pretty good odds for them. Typically, they're the favorites. You know, them and the Astros here at the 2 shortest odds. Astros plus 600. Obviously makes a lot of sense. Still a really incredible team continuing to add. New York Mets at plus 900, I think, is really good value, as well as the San Diego Padres at plus 1,000. In addition, I sort of like a lot of these teams because these are the bigger market teams. They have great rosters here at the beginning of the season, and I think potentially all these teams could even look to make moves at the deadline to continue to strengthen their chances of taking home the title. Moving on to our season-long awards, we're going to start with the American League, giving you guys 2 different tiers and 2 players within these tiers that I think could ultimately take home these awards. Starting off in Tier 1 for the American League MVP, we have Ohtani and Trout at plus 220 and plus 800 respectfully. I think if Ohtani does his thing, which we all think he will, the odds are incredibly short, but he's going to win it. I mean, he should have won it this past year, but Judge hit 62, and I'm going to stand by that. You know, you can't just continue to give the MVP to LeBron every year that he does crazy stuff. I think it might be similar in a way with Shohei, but if he does his thing, I don't see any reason why he won't win. And Mike Trout, he hit 40 bombs in less than 100 games last year. Obviously, if this team's able to make a push into the playoffs, it'll be on the back of these 2 players. So it might be a little bit of a coin flip between the 2, but even still, Mike Trout, a 3-time MVP at plus 800. I like those odds, maybe worth a little sprinkleton on there. Moving down to Tier 2. Kind of interesting. 2 guys that have big potential if they're able to stay healthy and really contribute to their team's success. Yordan Alvarez at plus 1,200 and Vladdy Jr. at plus 1,300. You know, it makes a lot of sense. Alvarez hits a ton of bombs, lots of RBIs, tons of production, but ultimately he's a DH, so just going to have to stay locked in the entire season. And obviously stay healthy with all of these guys is a big-time key. And then for Vladdy, if he gets Triple Crown again, let's say potentially they win the AL East. I don't even want to say that, but let's say they do. He gets Triple Crown, you know, high 40 home runs, 140 RBIs, great average. I think he could definitely take it too, and a plus 1,300, really good value as well. Moving on to the Cy Young for the American League, we have Jacob deGrom and Garrett Cole rounding out Tier 1. deGrom at plus 550, Garrett Cole at plus 700. Obviously, these guys are 2 horses for the Cy Young every year. Now, obviously, deGrom competing with Garrett Cole, coming over to the AL West with the Texas Rangers. If deGrom does his thing, he definitely could win this award. It's just a matter of whether or not he stays healthy. And Garrett Cole, obviously, he's had some inconsistencies throughout the season, but overall, he still puts up an incredible line of work. And I think that ultimately, if he takes that top ace status, getting that pressure from Carlos Rodon, I think he definitely could take it at plus 700. And then two longer shots that I think could work out. Shohei at plus 1100 and Luis Castillo at plus 1600. We all know what Shohei can do, but ultimately it's just how much is he going to be able to do between pitching and hitting? How long will this go on? Nobody will know. And obviously there are just even more chances of injury, both pitching and hitting. So if he's able to stay healthy, obviously his numbers are great. His stuff is great, and it's a great story, so I could definitely see that. And Luis Castillo has just really, really filthy stuff. I think that if he puts up a great year, great numbers, and he's able to lead the Mariners back to the playoffs again, they do have a good rotation, so he might have some pressure there to perform at his best. And a plus 1600, again, I'll be a Sprinkleton there. And I think I ultimately could see him taking it home as well. All four of these guys could definitely win it. Moving on to the National League Awards, starting with the MVP. In Tier 1, we have Juan Soto plus 550 and Ronald Acuna plus 1,000. Down in Tier 2, we have Trey Turner plus 1,100 and Freddie Freeman plus 1,400. So a full season of Juan Soto. He's just such a producer. I think with this San Diego Padres team, he has really great protection. They're going to have to pitch to him, and he could really just put up some monster numbers for this team. And if they end up winning the AL West, that's going to be your guy for MVP. Talking about Ronald Acuna Jr., if he's able to stay healthy, incredible producer, great with the glove. Obviously, was a shame last year to see him go out, but I think he's going to be ready for a comeback. Again, a really potent lineup with the Braves. If they're able to win the division again and really separate themselves from the Mets, I could see him being the guy at the top of this list. Two interesting picks as well. Trey Turner plus 1,100 and Freddie Freeman plus 1,400. Trey Turner, I think, is a great piece for the Phillies. Similar line of thinking if he's able to lead them to the playoffs. Always a great average guy, great on defense. And he's a great producer. Tons of pop we're seeing in the World Baseball Classic. So, puts up some good numbers. I could see him take it. I think some really, really good value, maybe the best value in this whole video, is Freddie Freeman plus 1,400. I don't even think last year was a down year. Obviously, he was an all-star, but he can put up some monster numbers. He crushes the ball. He sprinkles it all around the field. Great average hitter with, great power. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Dodgers have one of these dominant seasons we've seen over the past decade, that he could also be at the top of a short list and a plus 1,400 to start the year. And if any of these guys go down, I think that he could definitely make a strong push for the award. And finally, the last award we're going to talk about, not going to talk about Rookie of the Year or anything like that. For now, maybe we'll talk about that mid-season. But for the Cy Young, I have Corbin Burns plus 500 and Max at plus 800 for our Tier 1. And for Tier 2, we have Sandy at plus 500 and Julio Urias at plus 2,000. So the other reason I have Sandy in Tier 2 is that it's very hard to win this award in back-to-back seasons. He obviously was almost unhittable last year. Really was, one of the main reasons that the Marlins were winning games. But just on the fact it's hard to win it back-to-back years, I bumped him down. Corbin Burns, absolutely filthy. Definitely a situation where his numbers will speak for themselves. Maybe the Brewers even win this division. I think he would have a strong case there. And Max Scherzer, I think him and Justin Verlander are just gamers, man. I think that they're going to be able to play off each other. I think that Max is going to really want to be the guy here in New York for them. And I think at plus 800, pretty good value. Jacob deGrom off the bump. He'll, I think, personally be the ace. Obviously, Verlander coming off an AL Cy Young. But I think he just has that mentality, and I think he may take over this season. Again, we talked about Sandy and some really good value with Julio Urias as well. He's had phenomenal numbers over the past couple of years. And at plus 2,000, definitely a great opportunity to take a flyer on him. So, that was a little long-winded. Hopefully you guys stuck with me to the end of the video, and I appreciate everybody who's here at the end. Let me know what you guys think of my picks for the 2023 MLB season. Let me know what you think about my bets. Let me know what you think about my opinions. Love to hear it down below, even if you guys disagree. Let me know what you guys think is going to happen. But for now, that's going to do it for this video, guys. This has been your boy Frankie Bones, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. Peace out.